speakers are Bill Drummy and MK Tandem.
Hi, I am Bill Drummy. I am not Mary Catherine Tantum. It would just be me today. So thank you for the opportunity. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what the reality is right now when it comes to AE reporting, and take you through kind of a little story involving a fictional patient and what they may experience. Now, here are the criteria we need to meet to have what is officially considered an adverse event by the FDA. But can I go to the next slide, please? Oh, I guess I have to do this here. Sorry. Mike Smith is our fictional character. He's a 33-year-old attorney. Mike has adult ADD. He's taking a pharmaceutical product for it, and Mike runs into some problems. You know, he's feeling ill. He's having a little nausea, perhaps a headache. He's having some problems. And Mike wondering, quite understandably, is this coming from the product I've been taking? So what does Mike do? What is he likely to do? Well, you know, Mike, like most people, is going on the internet, and he might go to a website. I'm not indicating, by the way, that the Strattera was a problem product here. It's just for purpose of illustration. But if he were to go on this website, what would he find out? And how would he be guided to actually do something about that adverse event? Now, he might, you know, read through the labeling information and see if there was an indication. But if he didn't find something there, where would he go? What would he be allowed to do that would help him? Well, there's nowhere on this site or on virtually any pharma product site that tells him what he can do now to report this. So maybe he'll go somewhere else. Maybe he'll go to drugs.com. And in drugs.com, he might see the information in mouse type about the warning label about the Strattera and what it does and what it may do to him. And if he looks really, really closely, if you look all the way at the bottom of that screen in very small type, he can see that, yeah, you know, he can actually report that using MedWatch. Now, I'm going to make the radical suggestion that that's not very effective. And it doesn't really fulfill the mission of the FDA about safety and efficacy for products and for patients. So what we have now is a situation where we are perhaps fulfilling the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law at all, and really not doing very much to help protect patients. As Chris Schroeder mentioned earlier, in their survey, 1 out of 1,000 perhaps said they would go on to MedWatch to do this. There's something really wrong here, and something that really needs to be fixed. Again, according to Health Central survey, only 1% said they would actually contact the FDA to do this. So what can Mike do? What's a better way of looking at this and imagining this? And I think in order to understand that, we have to look at what we have here is essentially a problem caused by technology in a sense. We have what is sometimes referred to as data smog. There's too much information, and yet there's nothing clear. There's no real understanding of what people can do. So what I'm suggesting is that we have to kind of use technology as the answer to the problem that technology in part helped to create. So now let's go on and kind of illustrate this a little bit more. If you went on to a website where there was social conversations right now about this particular product, what you could find if you were Mike and you had this problem and you wanted to understand, these reports here are one positive and one very negative about Strattera. One guy who's actually saying he considered suicide, to the comment made earlier, actually saying that. But because of the regulations we have in place right now, that would not be considered an AE. And the second comment on the same page is a glowing recommendation for the product and saying, this is something we really, really, you know, I had great results on it. So what is Mike to think? Is this something good? Is this something bad? How am I to know? And whose voice is completely missing from this conversation? It's the company that has the responsibility to provide responsible information about the product, and they're not allowed to really be part of the conversation. According to the FDA, this is not even an AE. But yet, now think about this for a second, because I know there's a lot of resistance that the industry has to having all the burden of AE reporting imposed upon them because they're afraid of thousands and thousands of new reports they have to go through this onerous process to handle. But I'm going to challenge that thinking, because if you look at what happened with Vioxx, if Merck had known, if everyone had been talking about the problems and Merck had been monitoring it, and if this had been in place years ago, how much would we have saved in terms of human suffering and human loss? And how much would the industry have saved in terms of their own reputation if they had been aware of these things? So you really need to think differently. I mean, I think this era that we're in now is full of new possibilities. And applying the old logic to the new world is really not going to be very effective. So how can we improve things specifically? How can we actually improve communication? I want to suggest a couple of ideas in the next few minutes. One is what I call radical simplification. Now, this is a mock-up of an ad for a drug X product. And what you see here is just very, very simple wording that explains what the most common side effects could be. And it's radically simple. It just says there's 3 things that are commonly associated with this product. And here's a click for more information. And I would argue that this is far more effective way of getting across risk information than a stream of mouse type that we know no one reads. Let's be honest about this. No one is going to read the mouse type on these pages. So if we do something radically simple, we're actually improving patient safety, and even though it's not as encyclopedic as the current regulations require. Similarly, if you go to a message board, and I think with the social media conversation we've been having, this is extremely important. If there were comments being made here about a particular product, and this is a made-up comment, but it's actually based on a real comment that's out there, basically there's someone giving advice here on this board, and there's no way for pharma, or there's no presence of pharma responding to that. So what I'm suggesting is another way of looking at it, and that is having not only the right, but actually the responsibility of the manufacturer to intervene in that conversation. And what I'm suggesting is kind of a badged authority. In this case, the example I have is someone from working for Pfizer, who's basically advising the person who made the posting, kind of suggesting you can take whatever dose you want on the product, that actually that's not a good idea, and in fact you need to do things according to the label and really adhere to the label. Now, to take this a little bit further, you could look at this in terms of an adverse event report. If you see something online as a pharmaceutical company that is someone complaining about an adverse event, it is completely within the potential of the medium for you to say, I see that you're having a problem here. Please, let's talk privately. Let's go to an offline chat situation so we can learn more and perhaps help you with that problem. To me, that would be the most helpful way for the industry to be interacting. And as we've heard from other speakers, it's not going to be thousands and thousands of these reports. But when they come up, we should know about them, and we should be interacting with them. Now, so how would that happen? The other thing I'm suggesting is something that's really a radical simplification of what you have right now. You have to make it far easier for a person in the public to actually make the report. It's got to be something that also you don't just have the reporting occur only one place, the MedWatch site, but let's make this reporting actually could be embedded in the sites where the people are. There's no reason why we can't use technology to help solve this problem partially caused by technology. So basically, kind of in summation, I think this is something that would be great for patients. It would be really wonderful for the companies themselves because it helped rescue the pharmaceutical companies' reputation as not caring appropriately about the public and safety. And also for the FDA, it's the most active way you could be helping to improve safety among all the patients. So basically, it's all about transparency and two-way communications being good for everyone. I have 5 seconds left for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Questions from the FDA panel? Dr. Dalpan?
What's the role of the physician in all this? It's missing from your presentation here.
Well, you know, as an earlier speaker said, the physicians have been trained and exposed to a much greater degree than the general public, and I was taking your questions being more focused in the consumer area. But I think we've seen physicians also being quite reluctant to get into AE reporting because of the barriers. So I would apply a similar logic in saying that we need to simplify that as well, because they're already so burdened by paperwork and administrative costs and requirements that we need to make all that much simpler for a doctor too. So the doctor could even help in this adverse event reporting. That's the general theme I think we should apply to all these kinds of situations.
Dr. Berman?
Dr. Delpan asked my question.
Okay. Any other questions from the update panel? Thank you, Mr. Drummy.